I have like 6 different decks here. If you see the title of the live, good morning. We're just getting started. We're going to be going over like Tarot 101 today. So I'm just going to kind of info dump at you some tarot knowledge.
Tarot is just a tool that we use a lot of times just to get bigger clarity on themes of our life, what's currently been going on. Hello, good morning. And yeah, if you've never used a tarot deck or any sort of oracle deck, it's definitely something I think is meant to be used with intention, but it's really beautiful regardless of where your belief system is at and what comes through. If anything, it's very divinely orchestrated inspiration. So when you pull tarot, you can just let it kind of guide your thoughts and just see what comes up based on the reading. I can see every single spiritual practice used so far that you don't trust your own knowing. And I think, in tarot, the more you meet things with intention, I think you come to learn that the cards very much connect to your knowing. But I also have seen people get into decision paralysis where they won't make one single decision without pulling tarot every single second. And then pulling it multiple times a day, which, I think you can take everything too far. I've also seen people take astrology so far as to, putting themselves into complete fear spirals from over researching, wanting to know what every single day is going to hold. And I just don't think that's how spiritual resources are meant to be utilized. I think it's just to help kind of validate the feeling experience of things and to help you go into deeper reflection with yourself. So that's how I use tarot. Is I probably pull tarot I would say 5 or 6 times within a month, just to kind of give me some centering around usually themes closer related to full and new moons. I also like to use it for if I'm having a really challenging day and it's just kind of ruminating. I'll try to figure out what the higher perspective is to take, what is coming up for me and what are the themes for it. And it's usually a big sigh of relief when I use tarot to let go of some of the story that can be coming from just personal shaming patterns and not actually a higher wisdom and knowing. So V has so many decks, and
I've only chosen a few. I've only chosen 6 this morning.
We use them all the time. V does tarot in a really cool way because this is the traditional, so this is the traditional writer.
You're going into my whole thing.
I was just gonna say how you're a reader. Can I do one piece? These are the traditional cards that I feel you see, and some people just memorize these, and that's how they do it. But there is so many other decks that provide a intuitive way to read. That's not your whole spiel.
We're going to go into it.
We're going to go into that deeper.
So basically, there are all sorts of types of divination. Jen threw that word in the intro, so I just want to review that real quick before we get into it. But divination is just kind of typically opening different channels and using different tools that can help you speak to your spirit team, to your higher power, whatever you believe in. They're used to help facilitate messages through. So very common divination tool is tarot cards and oracle decks. Other options are pendulums, rune readings. I know some witches who do bone throwings. Those are so cool. I don't know how to do them, but I love watching other people do them. Tea readings are a good one. You do have psychics and mediums who literally just open up their channel and it starts to flood in their own unique ways. What are some other things? I feel that's a good little, the basics at least. There's a ton of different forms of divination, but those are some of the most common tools that I can think of off the top of my head.
I remember thinking tarot is just so it's taken me a long time to get on to spiritual practices. I was so resistant to so much of it, and I remember when I first started thinking it was just like, yeah, something to make you like feel good, and just like, there was no necessarily higher guidance to it. And then it gets really funny as you get to use your deck more often and you pull the same card like again and again and again. It's like, clearly this lesson matters. And there's been times I've like met the deck more frustrated and been like, yeah, well, if anyone's really here and cares, then you can show me this card. And then you flip and it's the exact card of the whole deck, and you're like, okay, sorry, I was just having a bad attitude kind of day.
I was a moment. I wasn't feeling good.
And once you've had enough of these like wild, crazy synchronicities, you get over it being if anyone's in that kind of phase of like, I don't know if any of that is even real. It sounds like a bunch of BS to me. You get over it. You really do.
So today we're going of card decks you can buy. You can buy a tarot deck, and the most common traditional deck is the Rider-Waite deck. I personally have such a... Oh, it ended up being the Lovers. I personally have a really hard time reading this deck. It's also a little controversial in the spiritual community if you do your deconstruction work. So, fun fact. Then you have more tarot decks that have like their own imagery, like artists made their own interpretation of the same cards. And it just gives you a different way to read. Then you have oracle decks. So the difference between a tarot deck and an oracle deck, the running joke in the spiritual community is if you just want it to tell you nice, pretty things, pull an oracle. If you want to hear what you need to hear, pull tarot. So oracle decks tend to be a lot more tame, a little less highly informative, and a little bit more like vague and uplifting and positive. So a couple examples I have for oracle decks is this is my Mystic Misfits deck, and it has like I really actually love this oracle. So it has, I think there's only like 21 cards in this deck, so it's a really small deck. The imagery is super beautiful, and even the death card is so cute to me. Even the descriptions, because the artist gave us a little description book, the descriptions are much more kind of just like vibes than like an actual synopsis for you. So for example, the first card in this deck is the Witch, and it just says, the Witch is cunning, proactive, but cautious in new paths. And then it gives the descriptors of intellect, skill, logic, perception, analytic, skeptic. So that's all there is for the description, whereas for most like tarot and some oracle decks, like you actually tend to get like a page of information on the meaning of the card that you have pulled. So that's one set of an oracle deck. I just have one more I want to show you, and then I'm going to get more into the actual tarot side. So then I have my Synchronicity deck, which is really beautiful art.
A card for me.
Oh, storm. It's gonna rain today. So the Synchronicity deck is a lot more vibrant and more playful. These all have one-word descriptors on them, so like this one is change. And I really like this deck in particular because I have the description of each card downloaded on a PDF that I bought from the artist, but I don't typically pull it because I feel like the cards kind of speak for themselves, like if you merge with them long enough. And maybe that's a me thing. I've been reading cards for a long time, so maybe it's harder for new people to merge, but like just sitting with the card and really like, what stands out to you. Like in this card, the blue would stand out to me and how it's much more all-encompassing, whereas the pink stands out, but that feels a lot more personal. And then like maybe I play with color association. Maybe I play with the feeling that's evoked as I'm looking at the card.
And I think you make a really good point. So if tarot or oracle cards are very new to you, I think another just important thing to remember is whatever is meaningful to you, whatever you determine like means X, Y, and Z is ultimately what will come through as communication. So if you always feel a certain way when you see certain things, that's going to be used to evoke that feeling. I think our higher guides are always trying to relay messages in a way that's familiar to us. So I know for me, as I've journeyed with certain decks for like years at a time, I know what goes on in my life when I get certain cards. Like, the cards hold deeper meaning than even those books end up giving you. Like, I know when I'm in certain periods of chaos, like what change means to me, and there will be cards assigned that will always come through when my life is mirroring a certain thing. Oh wait, show your little cute thing.
Okay.
It's adorable.
All right, I'll pause. I'll slow down. Do you want to finish your thought? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I just want you to show your cute thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I was getting at, is like the books might have different meanings across the board, but ultimately the goal of tarot is to get into a place where
it's an intuitive channel.
Yeah, and you're out of the way, and you kind of end up knowing what the card is evoking feeling wise for you, and that feeling is what is going to give you that connection point.
And just one thing I want to talk on to the point you're making is that certain cards pull up for Jen, and she's like immediately feeling like, oh, we're about to hit a cycle of this, or we're going to hit a cycle of that. That same card may have a completely different meaning for you. And it is also okay in the beginning of your journey to just merge with the different meanings. We'll get into major and minor arcana in a little bit, but there's like many different ways to start to merge and learn your deck, and we're going to go over some of those things today. But as you're learning just the general meanings, it's totally okay to use those books as crutches. However, I do feel like just trusting your intuitive channel to bring the message forward and merge with the images is like another level of tarot reading that is very beautiful and very, like, that's what makes it like a beautiful spiritual practice, and not just like shuffling cards and pulling a random one, because you're like really merging with and connecting to your cards.
Yeah, I am a huge journaler, and I also have a very good memory, so I like know every single circumstance. Like, I remember the cards I pull when I'm going through certain things. Like, I just have a good memory of it, and I also journal the cards that I pull very consistently, so I can see card pulls from like 6 years of consistent journaling, and also be able to see the common happenings in my life and the cards that will come up when those things are happening. So that has helped me weave and thread even a deeper meaning to my cards.
I'm just pulling, can you find me the Page of Cups in this? It's not in the stack to my left. Okay, so moving from Oracle to Tarot. So the other thing with Oracle, just one more note before we move on to Tarot, is that you can even get little Oracle decks that are more like this deck in particular is a little mini pocket edition, and it's a good like yes no tarot. Maybe later in the live, we'll be here till 9:30. I actually wanted to play with these with you guys today, so we'll come back to these. But Oracle decks have a lot more variation, and they tend to be smaller and just a lot more simple and upbeat and uplifting, whereas like tarot's like that aunt that like loves you and is gonna protect you, but if you're fucking up, she's gonna tell you, like, stop doing that. So it's what you want to hear, or sorry, it's what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, is like the general energy of tarot. So I'm having Jen go on a journey, and while she does that, I'm going to show you my tarot mat because I made it myself, and that's why Jen was like, show everybody. So this is one of my tarot mats. I love making tarot mats, and basically I made these for my decks that I always bring a tarot or oracle deck with me everywhere I go. You never know when you're gonna need message. So this just lays out and becomes like a clean surface. We're going hiking later today. I'm sure we'll stop and journal. I'm sure I'm gonna want to pull a card. So this is just like a nice little surface to keep my cards clean. Or sometimes when I do like pick threes, or not pick threes, but I'll like draw 3 cards and then I'll like post on my channel, Diary of a Fairy, I'll post like, you know, pick one that speaks to you, and then I'll explain the different meanings of each one. So it just gives like a nice little background to that. And then on this side, there's a pocket for the deck to sit in if you want to add a little tumble crystal or whatever you can. very helpful. And I love putting them together. I love making the little tie match up. I put way more thought than needs to go into them.
Not true.
So I have 3 tarot decks with me today. Just 3. Hold on, that's from your reading last night. So I grabbed these 3 because one is, can you do the same with this one? That's, oh, you got it. No? Oh, you just have random cards over there. Got it. Can you also get me the Page of Cups out of that one? So in these 3 decks, Jen's is the traditional deck, and I love that for her. She can read it, and that's great. I really do struggle with the imagery on these decks. They just don't hit the same for me. If it's a card that I get often, like Strength, I have already merged with Strength with a completely other deck that isn't even here. So when I pull the card, I know what it means for me. But, like, if I'm trying to read the imagery of Rider-Waite, I personally just have, like, I have a struggle with it. It just doesn't scratch my brain the same. My 2 favorite decks to use is my Crystal Visions deck, which I call my fairy deck. And, I mean, look, there's a fairy for the Hermit. She's giving fairy. She's giving mystical mermaid, a Pegasus, like, oh, okay. I wanted to tell you about the author. I love when decks have a little bit of an info card in there. The unique thing about the Crystal Visions deck, too, is there's actually a bonus card in here, and it's called Unknown. It's not part of the traditional tarot deck, and basically if you pull the Unknown card, it basically means whatever your question was, there's too many factors still at play to, like, give you a straight enough answer. So I've only pulled that twice in the 6 years I've had this deck.
Isn't Daughter in this one that...
Yeah, Daughter is Paige.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, man. That was right at the top, wasn't it? So, yeah, that's the Crystal Visions deck. And I'll get into the Way Home deck, which is the one Jen has in her hand in a little bit. But I just wanted to show you 3 of the same card from each of these decks, just so you can kind of see the difference in imagery. So this is all the Page of Cups from 3 different decks. And so, like, this is what most people end up getting for their first tarot deck. And, like, that's great and all. I guess I see it. But for me personally, like, it's way easier for me to merge with these 2 than this guy. You know? And, like, if you want to drop the vibes you get from these images in the chat, let me know. A little intuition exercise. What energies are you picking up on? If you want to. No pressure, no pressure. But yeah, so just for example, like, these are 3 different decks, but they're all the same card, and so it just gives you a good example as to, like, how pulling from a different deck with different imagery really can either enhance or stifle the same meaning. Like, for me, this card is the easiest for me to read when I read through these decks. This one's the hardest. I don't have a hard time reading this one. It's just, this guy's easier for me. I merge with these way better. This is actually my favorite deck, and we're going to info dump on it in a minute. But that was just a easy, breezy example. I don't know where the Rider-Waite deck just went. Okay, thank you. We have so many decks surrounding us, and this isn't even, like, the full collection. It's just the ones I chose for this morning. But yeah, so that is a little bit on imagery. And I'm slowly going to work into, like, how I learned how to read tarot and how most people learn to read tarot. And when I do tarot readings for private sessions, I think with Jen's combined, we have like 30 tarot decks. It's a lot. During COVID, I was merging with so many decks, and I just started a little collection for myself. And so now when I do readings, I kind of let my intuition lead me to which deck I want to use, because obviously, like, the interpretation when you're doing intuitive versus just trying to traditionally read the exact definition of each card, it gives you a lot more room, and it can mean something so vastly different between each deck. So, with that being said, I want to merge with my absolute favorite deck for like 3 seconds, because I cannot recommend this deck enough. I'm going to find the full really fast because it is my favorite one to show you. This deck gives me optical illusion vibes, and that's what makes it so easy to read. So when you get a tarot deck, while I'm looking, I'm just going to explain how to connect to your deck while I'm trying to find the one I'm trying to find. So if you first get a tarot deck, you want to spend a good amount of time, like not 5 minutes, but a genuinely good amount of time actually merging with your deck, especially if it's not the traditional Rider-Waite, and that's, you know, if you've merged with a Rider-Waite before, each one is going to obviously be pretty much the same, but for these artistic decks, you want to take time and really, not only merge with the imagery, but I also found when I was first learning tarot that kind of finding people in my life that remind me of each card is very helpful. So, the Fool is my favorite card in this deck to explain like the imagery of like why this deck in particular is my absolute favorite. So this is the Fool upright. And the Fool upright, the beginning of the Fool's journey is very hopeful. There's like endless possibilities ahead, and sure, it's kind of like a winding river, but like look at all those rainbows and like little clouds of possibility as you go through the twists and turns of the journey that you have yet to start, that you're about to begin, right? But we always have to be careful with the Fool, whether it's upright or not, because you're actually like, you need to still, like, big picture looks amazing, but we still need to be wary of what's right in front of us, right? Now, if I pull the Fool in reverse, the same exact imagery, but now it really changes the depth in which that, like, taking the first step, the Fool reverse is much more of that warning of, like, you need to watch where you're stepping. And I think when this card is turned upside down, it gets so much louder because you're almost about to step off into a void. Like, yes, you still have this winding, twisting realm of possibilities, but because you're not watching where you're you're going to step off into, like, the ledge. You're not actually following the journey ahead. You're just kind of jumping off the cliff. Bridge underwater, I am jumping off. If you're not on Lizzie McAlpine TikTok, it's fine. But yeah, so this is just one card in this deck, but the reason I've merged with it so hard is because the imagery is so beautiful, and so it takes me to a whole different dimension, truly. I'm just gonna let it give me another card to show you guys, because some of the cards in this deck I feel like I haven't connected with as strongly, maybe, but there's 78 cards in a traditional tarot deck, and that's a lot of cards to merge with. So what I did when I first got this deck is I took like 3 or 4 weeks, and every morning I would try to get through like 1 to 3 cards of just sitting down, and so funny, I was hoping it would be one of these. I would just sit down with whatever card, and I kind of would do it in this style where I shuffled the deck and I would ask, instead of going in order, you're more than welcome to go in order. Again, like, each person's journey is their own. There's not any wrong way to learn. It's just putting in the time, energy, and effort to actually merge with your deck. But I would basically just shuffle my cards. I'd probably lay out like an hour a day where I was going to merge with each card and just write down every single thing that came up while I was staring at the card for like 5 to 10 minutes. Like, was it an emotion? Was it a feeling? Is there something that's standing out to me the most here? You know, if I noticed there were different types of flowers, like I'm not the best at flower language, but I would like later look up the meaning of each flower to like add that to each card when I pull it in the future. So this is the 3 of Wands in that same deck that we just did Optical Illusion Fool with. And I really love the 3 of Wands when it comes up. This comes up so much in this deck for almost everyone I read for. So the 3 of Wands is very like, you have created, this is a portal, but it's a portal made of what looks like sticks, right? So for me, it's like simplified creation, like not simplified, like connection. Your roots to nature are going to help open that portal to the next new beginning. That next stage in your path is kind of being created by a world of your own design, and it's raw. It's not, you know, like a 2x4 is very structured, right? Like the structure here is very natural. It's your natural path, and maybe it's even a little found within the messier parts of yourself, the more like inner healing parts of yourself versus those like very structured parts of society. So in this card, I remember when I first merged with it, it was really the portal that got me, like the depth of like, it's really in theory like such a small image since it doesn't take up most of the card, but then like the longer you look, the deeper the sky gets, the further the path is, and you just kind of have to take the steps to actually enter through the portal. Like that's on you and your choices. Another card example. Oh, you aren't good with the flowers. I know some flowers. Flower language has only come to me. It's so funny. The only time I remember flower language is when it has anything to do with Victorian era stuff, because in the Victorian era they would use like different flowers and like things sent to like mean different things. And I have been reading a few period piece books lately, so like it keeps coming back around, so maybe I need to take a second to merge with it again. But I know more so like the roses, like yellow roses are like a good health, and red roses are supposed to be like romance and stuff, but it's not something I've memorized. Okay. So then another card to merge with is the Son of Wands in this deck, and some of the images in this deck, especially when it gets to more of the court cards of the minor arcana, you have more of a silhouette of a person and the imagery is within, so like that's always going to tell me like it is inner work versus like if it was a silhouette of a person and there's a lot more imagery on the outer, it would be more external work, is like how I've merged with this deck. Yeah, and for the Son of Wands, he clearly is like testing his power. Like he has a wand and it's levitating, he's not even holding it, so he's like testing his own power and natural ability. Again, like that raw stick versus like a very structured wand tells me like it's much more like instinctual magic. But then we also have like an internal volcano ready to erupt, and it's so funny because I literally went to a moon circle the other day and they had an oracle deck that we pulled from, and I got the volcano. So the fact that a volcano has now come up 3 times this week is kind of weird because I don't think about volcanoes this much. Anyway, there was a second time that's less relevant, but yeah, so then for me, volcano is usually like, I think eruption, I think like hot lava. To me, the eruption gives usually anger to me. It can mean something different for everyone else, but it's giving like an unbalanced amount of emotions that probably need to like take pause and really dissect. And if I were to pull this same card from a Rider-Waite deck, like I probably would not get the same energy, which is why I highly recommend, if you're trying to learn tarot, to find a deck that you actually like merge with the art. I do have some decks that are almost purely decorative. Like I just thought the art and the imagery was so beautiful, but it doesn't actually fully resonate with me as far as like my card readings. I have the Forest Embroidery Tarot deck that was so beautiful, but no matter how many times I've tried to read it, I don't merge with it the same. It doesn't hit the same, and that's okay. Sometimes I just really love supporting artists and their art. So there are a few decks in my collection that I don't actually use often, but I think the imagery is beautiful. And then when we host retreats, Jen's here, she's just off to the side.
I'm doing a reading.
Jen got inspired. But when we host our retreats, I actually like to pull out all of my decks, especially the ones I don't use. There's a few. I actually try to keep some decks kind of more personal to my own reading, but then over time, they'll tell me who they want. Like, for example, my Crystal Visions deck, I was very personal for probably about 3 years. And then I have 2 individuals whom work with or are called by a specific deity, and that deity loves to speak to me through this deck. So there's 2 individuals that I've actually read for with this deck multiple times, because it's like kind of how that specific deity speaks to and through me. Whereas my Way Home deck, which is this beautiful, very illusionist, optical illusion-esque deck, I kept to myself for a very long time for the same reason. Like, this was more of a personal intuition, like me to my own personal higher self. So anyway, yeah, so I definitely highly recommend finding decks that imagery like merges with you a lot better and it's easier for you to read. If you've tried to read tarot and just Rider-Waite just feels like I'm not good at it, it's probably just the art is not what's merging with you, because for years before I even got my first tarot deck, I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I look at those cards and I don't see the same thing. I use different forms of divination. I actually did Ouija more when I was younger. So, like, my initial form of divination was spirit boards, and then that shifted into tarot when I had found my first. I got a minimalist deck that I do not have with me this morning, but that minimalist deck was way easier than Rider-Waite, and all of a sudden it started clicking, and I was like, oh, so it's not that I'm just, like, bad at tarot, it's just that that deck in particular does not speak to me, and so that may be the case for you. And then, yeah, I probably spent a good 3 years doing a morning tarot pull. I feel like I pull tarot. I may not do it every day, but I do pull tarot probably somewhere between 15 and 25 times a month. I also read tarot for people, so sometimes that's, I've done like an energy card for myself for the day, and then I have a tarot reading that I'm pulling cards for.
If I pulled too much tarot, I will get so in my head that I will drive myself crazy.
Well, actually, that's the next thing I want to talk about too, is that for me, when I pull tarot daily, I'm not always doing an in-depth reading. I only do actual, like, multiple card pull in-depth readings when I feel like there's something, like, I'm running into a lot of resistance in the day. I'm feeling certain things, but I can't quite put, like, a pin on where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. Then I'll do at least a 3-card pull. What I normally do on the daily, though, is I'll just, I have my own morning ritual practice, so I, like, smoke cleanse my altar, maybe I light a candle, I give my offerings for the day, I set my intentions for the day, and then I'll grab my deck and I'll just be like, can you give me the energy of the day? So it's a 1 card, sometimes more than 1 falls out, but then I just take that for what it is, but it's just a 1 card question of, what is the energy coming forth today that I should be aware of, and then I take that 1 card, I'll simmer on what the energies around it are, I leave it on my altar as kind of a daily offering, energetic offering, and then at the end of the day, when I come home and I'm doing my end of day ritual, I'll look at the card and I'll, like, think to myself, like, how did this align during the day? Or sometimes, like, I'll get, like, the Tower reversed I almost rarely actually pull the Tower upright, and the Tower is probably the actual worst card you can pull in the deck, because it's just basically like a situation is about to be like demolition mode. So upright is much more like you are not learning the lesson and it's gonna get like a big boom for you to learn the lesson. Tarot reverse tells me shit's gonna be crazy, but you've been doing just enough that like you should be able to skirt by if you keep tapping into your higher self. So when the Tarot reverse when the Tower reverse comes to me in a morning energetic read, I immediately do kind of put this like internal beacon of like, okay, so if like shit starts hitting the fan throughout the day, maybe there's just like a lot of minor inconveniences that start annoying me, instead of letting it get to me, like just take a deep breath, energetically swipe it off, and like keep going, and like we can think about it later, but for now, like the Tower reversed is telling me like stick to that higher power, stick to that higher self, like don't take things personally. So that's just like one example of 1 card that resonates with me. That's like my interpretation, right? That could mean something completely different for you in your own practice, but that's also, those 1 card morning energy pulls have also really helped me merge with my decks, merge with the major and minor arcana better. Personally, I think the major arcana is a lot easier, and I think the minor arcana can be harder for me as a reader to really tap in, especially when it's my own personal readings. Like so we have the major and minor arcana, and the major arcana is 22 cards actually. We always say 21, but the full is 0, and it goes up to the number 21, so it's 22 cards. And the major arcana is 22 cards. They all have very strong, their own independent energies. And typically, when you pull major arcana cards, when you've asked your deck whatever, and you've pulled, say, the Fool is a major arcana card, and on different Tarot Talk Woo Woo Wednesdays, we can actually do like the Fool's Journey and stuff and like really, really dive into it. Today's just like a nice general overview for you. But the major arcana tends to be like those bigger picture moments in life. Like it's seeing everything for like the bigger meaning in life for what it is. Whereas when I pull minor arcana cards, and I know a lot of tarot readers feel the same, like the minor arcana is much more like zoomed in to like smaller chunks of time. It may not just be like 24-hour spans, it may be like a couple weeks, but it's like much more zoomed in for you, and like personal trials that you may be dealing with, versus major arcana sometimes like comes to you, but it's talking about the collective as a general sense. It can still be about you, but maybe it's about like long-term goals, or like, again, like bigger picture things, like things that will launch you towards like that end goal. And when it comes to just the minor arcana, that smaller picture, more zoomed in stuff, Woo Woo Wednesdays. But yeah, so those minor arcana sometimes can be trickier for me, just because I like a big picture. I do. I like the detail work, but it's like I have to look at the big picture and then slowly work my way to the zoom in here. So that's just my, it's not even beef with the minor arcana, but that's my block.
Yeah, so to share one other part of the minor arcana is it's broken into suits. So you have your water, your pentacles, your swords, and your wands.
Cups. You have your cups, which
is
water.
I say cups? I said water. Cups.
So each suit is broken into 4. Each suit has an element that is associated with it. So cups is water. Water tends to be more emotional. You have pentacles, which is associated with earth. This tends to have a lot more to do with like grounding energy, but also material, money, fiscal things. You have the swords, which is air. You know, as an air sign, air still kind of eludes me. What would you like give a description for swords? Like
communication, intellect, mindset. It's definitely has to do with what your thought processes are and how that's manifesting in the ways you interact with people through languaging.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then wands is fire. Fire tends to have a lot more to do with, for me, it's always speed. Like, I think wands, I think fire, I think things are coming fast. If you're looking for the speed of something, fastest to slowest, I would say on the slow end, earth is always going to, like, take time. Water is going to take time, but less time than earth. Or pentacles, and then water is cups. So then I would say swords would be like second fastest, and swords is air, and then wands and fire are gonna be your like fastest results.
And I like the correlation. So astrology is like way more my channel, and that's what I like to utilize. And for me, fire or wands in tarot is really holding the energy of creative expression and passion. It's like those really big inspiration energies, and it's cool because I think everything in all spiritual practices end up breaking into those like kind of 4 elements in some way, shape, or form. And so I like that tarot actually does end up embodying a lot of the elements. And then the numbers in tarot also can give you some themes even between the different suits for why, like what an undertone of the energy is. So they kind of follow their own arc from 2 to 10, which is really cool because it kind of helps you understand the deeper meaning just by what number you're pulling and then what suit you're pulling, even without the intuitive undertones of the picture or memorizing like what that card meaning is. There's even depth to that.
Which I'll make sure that on one of these other tarot days that we'll have a major arcana day and we'll have a minor arcana day where I just kind of go through and give you guys some tips and general energies for both the numerical suits of the minor arcana and the like elemental suits of the minor arcana, because half the time you don't even actually need to know what the 3 of Wands is. If you know what Wands energy is and you know what the energy of 3 is, you kind of have the general gist. And Jen's right, you can attach astrology to it. I think if you're not already an astrologer though, and this is coming from someone who's in both worlds, that can be a lot more complicated. I think because Jen came from the world of astrology into tarot,
it helped.
It was like a language barrier. It helped her jump over the creek. I think if you're trying to figure out tarot and trying to figure out astrology, it might get a little more muddled, just fair warning. But if you already know astrology, she is so right. The astrological connection points are, I think, a really easy way to suddenly, like, get the minor blend.
One other thing you said that I wanted to comment on is V was saying, like, in pacing that, like, earth and water, which would be pentacles and cups in tarot, tend to move a little slower, and then wands and swords or fire and air tend to move quicker. In the elemental studies and in astrology and in tarot, all of it kind of ends up pattern recognizing through, but isn't
that really just the whole point of all these lives? Is everything is interconnected?
Everything is everything.
Yeah,
everything,
here's the specific topic, and here's how it all connects.
I reference that movie every day of my life.
Where's your coffee cup? That's the coffee cup you have this morning.
True. Ha 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 ha.
If you haven't watched Everything Everywhere All at Once,
it's my favorite movie.
It's a good one.
Fine. So anyway, earth and water holds the quality. If you've seen the yin and yang kind of symbol, you know, the dualities of darkness to light, shadow to light, the two dualities that exist within everything. Water and earth holds more of a yin quality. So yin energy is always going to be way more receptive, and it's going to be way more like slow and cyclical, and it's going to tie in a lot of elements of feeling, versus yang energy is going to be very action oriented, very forward momentum, and it holds that kind of masculine undertone to it. And that's not meaning gender, it's meaning just that more like strength holds the highest intensity behind it. It doesn't hold that more like ebb and flow energy that you're gonna find with yin. And the tarot's
it's almost
even
a shorter
attention
that. Span, honestly. As you're talking, I'm envisioning like a Venn diagram of like the 4 circles of each element and the overlap, and then like where they all connect.
Yeah,
that might be a thing I do.
And so it's really cool actually that it goes that way. So in my like personal like astrology and birth chart, like I hold a lot more yang energy, which means I just have a lot more fire and air elements. And it's so funny because I feel like when I pull a lot of tarot, very often I pull in the need for more earth and water because I don't have it as my baseline. So I think the universe is always telling me to slow down, not worry about my time being so productive, being outside, taking care of myself, not being a workaholic. There's a lot of like themes to inviting in more yin energy. So I pull a lot of pentacle and I pull a lot of cups, like often, because I have a lot of sword and wand energy just in my general essence as a person.
We just finished Chris said that they love the idea of the 4 Venn diagram. If I do create that, I will make sure to share it.
We're obsessed with
it might be
elements.
A 5th house thing. It might be just a little creative thought that doesn't actually get finished. We'll see.
I'll make them paint it.
Paint it? I'll draw it. I don't know if I can paint.
We're painting signs today anyway for our protest tomorrow. So.
Yeah, we got protest tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow's busy.
Everyone should go out and protest tomorrow.
It's Beltane. Oh, one thing I wanted to say before we shift into that was, hold on, it's coming back. You were talking about
Elementals.
it was elementals. Oh, we just finished our psychic program. This is what I wanted to get at is it was the yin and yang from the so we just ran a psychic program for like a month and a half.
It was called Witchy Ways.
It was called Witchy Ways. And it's a 30-day program, but like it's also kind of more geared towards integrating very small chunks of your day. Like I described earlier in this live that I have kind of a morning and an evening practice. And both of those practices on a busy morning maybe are like 10 minutes max total. You know, on a slower day where I have more energy to drop in, might be like an hour or so. But that's just because it's the energy I have to give to it. But what we did with our Witchy Way psychic program was not only teaching people to tap into their intuition and giving many, many different ways that could happen because everyone's going to have their own strengths, you know, and things they're drawn to more. So we gave like a very broad variety of options to like try. And it was so beautiful to see in our first group who landed on what really spoke to them the most. But then we help you integrate that like 10-15 minutes every day of like just coming to your intuitive self and coming to your psychic self. So that was really beautiful. But the reason I wanted to bring it up is because on Wednesdays we would have either a quiz or a writing prompt. And when everyone did their yin yang quiz, Jen was 100% in her yang energy. So like it was you talking about the elements and how you tend to pull more pentacles and more water because those are the more yin energies, and she needs a lot of yin energy. So it makes sense that the cards are constantly telling her like to tap into that.
Daddy mode is loud.
And daddy mode is very loud. I mean, I don't mind it, but but I know it's healthy for you not to do that all the time.
Yeah. One of my funniest like tarot moments, I have gone through a lot of change in the last couple years, but yeah, for us, like stepping into just polydynamic and having to kind of go through the terrains of a lot of change of circumstances, I kept pulling the Wheel of Fortune card, which is basically like, trust the chaos. It's, you know, this is a higher plan than what you're going to be able to delve into. So I get that card really often, but it was so funny. I was having just like a complete mental breakdown one day and just crying and feeling like very overwhelmed. I went and took a walk, and I come back and my dog had broken into my basket that had my tarot cards in it, and he literally had picked out a card of the deck and was sitting there with the card with 2 teeth marks.
Just hanging out.
And it was the Wheel of Fortune card. And I was like, okay, tarot reader, puppy. And the card literally has 2 like teeth marks. I always know when I'm pulling it like after, because I'm like, oh, I know what card that is. That's the Wilson. I bit the card and he pulled it out for me. And then that was like, it was a good gratitude moment of just like, okay, all right.
Also, like, what are the odds that was the one and only time he's ever done that? He's never done it again. He never did it before that. Just that one time.
I have a picture of him just with that card, like, sitting there being like,
yeah,
Mother. There's a channeled
for
message for you.
I
Okay,
pulled
psychic
your card.
dog. Got it. First, I have to process that I have a very psychic dog, and now I also have to process this card.
This
and I'm gonna have a mental breakdown. Okay, Scorpio moon pup. Yeah, so that's that is one of my funniest tarot stories.
I